Hello and welcome to Explosive Kolonisation once again. So we have a bit of a treat special today. This is essentially a single focus video. We have the avatar out at laythe. It's taken a long time to get here, and a lot of this was built before, well, half of the videos in this series pretty much. So without further ado, let's get started. So the avatar is carrying essentially three parts to it. Or four parts. It has the main ship, and attached to that are the three drop-offs, essentially. Two lander aircraft, SSTOs, and this space station. So this is all, it's basically a simple space station. It has a bit of fuel on it, it's got a research lab, and then the ability to sort of keep its own food supply going for a while. It takes quite a long time, years between supplies. It's not intended to be crewed by a lot of people, but it does have a few sort of expansion ports here and there. At the moment it has 4 medium docking ports and 1 large one on the end, but it's intended, it was just set up this way to be dragged, essentially. There was 4 parts to the construction, and the main part of it, that big silver tube in the middle, essentially has 5 separate modules of the customizable storage from the DSEV mod. So I can use Angel 125's his own system, essentially, which allows me to hot swap it from things to other things, depending on what is needed. So all we're doing is we just pushed off with RCS. And obviously we couldn't use its thrusters because the solar panels for these 2 modules can't be collapsed and they're in the way. So I'm just docking them into where I want them on the final sort of thing. We have the lovely little cupola there, and then 2 modules that are from the mole mod there. One of them's the garden module, and then there's another habitat module. So we turn this round, and I'm not paying too much attention, and I don't realise I've run out of monopropellant for a second. And I'm sat there clicking the docking autopilot, going, what's going on here? Finally figure it out. So we actually get the station to dock with its own module, as opposed to the other way around. But it's fine and dandy, and we get everything sorted in the end, and then use the thrusters on it to push it up to main altitude. I'm keeping it around about 100-110 kilometers. So there we go, just little burns, and I'm just doing it slowly. It takes a few orbits to get it pushed up so it's nice and level, just so it's easier to get to from the surface, essentially. This is going to be a sort of midway station, and then we just get the science that we've collected so far. We've got a few crew on here, a few scientists, 1 engineer, 1 pilot, I think 2 pilots possibly, but we get everything sorted up. Rename it. I've been reading a lot of the Bobaverse books, so it becomes the Heaven One. If you haven't read the Bobaverse books, you really need to. They are genius. If you love Kerbal, you're really going to like those books. But we get back to the avatar, and we take our first plane and down. Now what I had done is I had sort of looked for where I thought was the flattest. And this area here seems to be fairly flat. Now I haven't scanned the planet. There was a probe in orbit from ages ago, but it got deleted at some point, so I didn't have the data that I thought I was going to have on the planet. So I take a rough guess at where I think it's going to be flat. I've landed a ship on Eve once, I've landed a ship on laythe once, while mucking about with the skunk works, but aside from that I've never really been here, so this is a first for me. So we come in fairly smoothly. I don't want to be too aggressive, and I'm fairly nervous about the atmosphere because I know it's a smaller planet, it's a thinner atmosphere. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, and as you can see from the fuel, I refilled this thing. It didn't take too much to get up to space, and I refilled it once it was up attached to the avatar before departing. So it's got a lot of fuel, a lot of delta V, and it's actually, I thought I had too much. So one of the things I do is once I'm back in the atmosphere, I was little occasional burns with the rocket motors to try and burn off some fuel, and then I realised how long it would take me. So yeah, I was really worried about the weight of this thing because it's almost double the weight when it's fully fueled. So we sort of have a look at where I think the flat ground is going to be. I have a bit of a drift and a glide over, and then come in for the landing approach. Now this vessel has two sets of engines, so it has the rear ones at the back which are dual mode, they can work in atmosphere or exo-atmospheric, but it also has the rocket engines on the front of it. And the idea being to pull the nose up on landing, especially landing with heavy loads, or to get the nose up when taking off again if it is pulling a heavy load off the floor. So I bring it in, I pump some fuel around to try and get it balanced, because obviously this isn't a runway, so you don't know what to expect. And just at the last second I just pulse those jets. We have a fairly rough landing, but we managed to get on the floor. So that's always nice. We are down, we managed to loop round. And then I just look for a roughly flat area to land the plane. Now I'm further across than the flat area I saw, and that was an accident, but it's worked out kind of well because I don't want all my stuff to be in the same area because of lag. So I'm actually trying to make sure that my planes come down in one place and then all the craft come out and go somewhere else. So that's a rough idea of it. And as you can see, just renaming everything so that it's nice and simple and I don't forget what I've put in places. And then we open up and get out one of our Kerbals. And yeah, it had to be. And we can even take the helmet off because why not? It is an oxygen atmosphere. So back in we go. And we are going to get our stuff out. And as you can see, the second I undock, that happens, which ain't great. So I unclip part of the buggy, pull it forward, and then I've got this left sat on the nose of my space plane. So I pull out another Kerbal, and after much humming and hawing and trying to figure out how to push this thing, I come up with actually just repairing the wheels to give it a bit of a jolt, and that manages to push it off the nose and roll it onto its side. So I decide, after having a look at it, to leave that alone for a minute and concentrate on the other thing. So we get the other module loaded up, get a couple of Kerbals into it, so that it's all ready to go. And essentially I want to go looking for a flat place. Really don't know what I was doing there, just dancing about with the Kerbals, but you can't complain. This was great fun. This has just been one day's worth of stuff, but it was a good laugh. I had nothing else to do. I've got a bit of a problem in my jaw at the moment, so I can't really do much without disgusting my bodily functions. Or just blood and pain, essentially. So yeah, we get out enough Kerbals. I want a couple of engineers and a couple of pilots. Don't mind about scientists at the moment. But we get them all loaded in, and I lose a bit of footage, which was basically me going for a drive and finding a flat area, which is here. So once we're at a flat area, we put on the brakes, uncouple the trailer, just so that it's left as a bit of a marker, and then head back to grab the rest of the stuff and sort out the vehicle that's on the side. Obviously, time is a bit of an issue here. I only have a finite amount of supplies and I need to get producing them fairly fast. But I also want this first base down and on the ground as soon as possible, so that I can get the other space plane down and have a look at everything. So I shrink down one of the cabins because I have this idea about moving them. Then I realised that that would take so long to disassemble the entire rover and put it back together, that I come up with the idea of just flipping it straight back onto its wheels. It's something I've actually done before, so it's not a new concept to me, but it is not the most gentle thing you've ever done to a vehicle. So after figuring out how to climb up on top of it, I get in, and I decide to see if I can roll it with the reaction wheels because there's lighter gravity here. But to sack that off is a bad attempt, and then pull out one of the beams that's in storage, specifically for this idea. And as you can see, I'm just attaching it at slightly more of an angle, and every once in a while it's too much of an angle and it flips. And then rinse and repeat. Bit of an angle, bit more of an angle, attach, too much of an angle, try again, there we go, flip over, and eventually I get it upright onto its wheels. As you can see, there's a few more beams attached and I cut out a lot of footage, but we get it all sorted. We get up onto the roof and take our beams back because I don't want to drive about a porcupine, and we send it down to the trailer. So there's at least some of our stuff ready to go. So I try and start the greenhouse, and this is where I noticed there's an actual problem with these greenhouses. They're not working. I've mentioned it to Angel. He already knows, and it'll probably be fixed by the time anybody watching this video goes to look. He's really good at fixing stuff. But we go back up to the avatar now that we've got a good target set out, and we release our other space plane. And now one of the things that happened is I noticed I don't have any concrete slabs, so before I released this I had a couple manufactured inside the workshop that's on the avatar, and I slung them into one of the spare places in some of the space on this spaceship, this space plane. And then I do a bit of I go higher and come in steeper so that I can get a better angle to come down, and it works quite well. I come in a little bit short of the target area, but again that's fairly good. Again, my little flare with thrusters at the end and land fairly hard, but acceptable. This is the one space plane that doesn't have much in the way of life support on it. The other one has a lot more, and this is my sacrificial space plane. I only ever intended on this one coming to the ground once because I need its body frame for resources and equipment. So first things first, after much trial I find an easier way of undocking them. And what you do is you turn on air park and then undock one at a time, and then literally drive the plane forward and everything slides out the back. So it causes a bit of a problem with the tyres, but it's a fairly reasonable way of doing it. So after this we get everything set up, we fix some tyres, we move some modules, and turn off air park obviously. That is a genius feature. Angel, if you're watching, you should put that into your bases as well, it'd stop mine sliding about the place. But this is absolutely brilliant. I leave air park on to fix these wheels, that way it doesn't get bounced too badly all over the place. So there we go, fix a couple and cut out the footage of the rest of it, because there was a lot of wheels. Part of the reason there is so many is because it was a fairly heavy load, but also because anything I send I can recycle. And although I was having a bit of a problem with the recycling, at some point it wasn't picking up even when resources were engaged. For the most part, everything I recycled worked perfectly. And there we go, just hopping between parts. And then, because they're Kerbals and they don't want to waste anything, they decide to use the ejection system to get out of the plane. So after a little bit of ejecting, and everybody landing on top of each other, we get all of the Kerbals out, Actually all bar one. And we get them all into a vehicle and get everything shifted up to the landing zone. And then once everything's in the place, we can pull out the mudcrete slab that we needed the first time and start building our base. Now the way that I found was easiest to do this was to hook everything at the one time into the mudcrete slab, then put on the Pathfinder module, because that gives you access to all of the resources you need, so your base is immediately set up. As you can see, my suspension's a bit higher than I expected, so those drills are just skimming the ground. But we hook up that, then I pull the pipe connector out, and then hook up my other things. As you can see, I've moved the second vehicle onto the first trolley, then onto the first vehicle, and yeah, a big conga line of stuff. But we get everything sorted, plugged together. That gives me access to all of the equipment, and everything's fairly close by. So I go and pull down the first habitat, a little bit of jiggering and pokering, and there we go. We have a tent. And we even have it not inflated, because you can't seem to inflate them from outside. So I jump into the thing, hit the inflate button, and away we go. Our first habitat. And then after a little bit, our second, third and fourth habitat. But I don't have the equipment, unfortunately, to inflate them all. And I've done this in a slightly wrong order. I've put the drill in first. And I actually should have gone the other way and gone for the equipment part. But as it turns out, I'm in the wrong area to get equipment anyway. So, 6.5 dozen. But we do a bit of renovating and shifting of things about. And part of the problem is I can't pull that equipment when it's not attached, because the big, I'm not even sure what you call those modules, the individual blocks that are on the faraway rover at the moment, they can't share modules over space, so I just have to move things about. I originally moved it because I needed space for the tent, but I move everything about, hook it all back in, and then inflate my modules. And there we go. And a warning saying you don't have enough. Now I was kind of expecting this, because I didn't transport it in the most efficient way, but it was part of the reason that I intended to sacrifice the second space plane. So we pull over some of these batteries. I wish the bigger version of these worked as a battery as well, but we reconfigure some of the things so that these are the batteries, but we reconfigure some of the other storage and actually attach it onto the side, which gives us a good solid mounting port. The first thing was for some solar panels, but after a little while I realised that I've got rocket parts in one of the storage components. I brought them with me, so I figure out a good place to put down my survey stakes to build something. Now you only technically need one, and you can work 2, but I usually put down 4 out of habit. And then we put on a spyglass module, because this will give us the ability to build with that. And as I learned the other day from Tanawe, the guy who basically looks after extraplanetary launch pads. Sorry mate for not getting your name right, I'm really dyslexic. But if you put a pilot, it gives you a better range, so if you're not connecting with the stakes, then it's probably you're missing a pilot, or your stakes being knocked over. Something I learned right as I was doing this actually. But as this all gets sorted up, I had reconfigured one of the vehicles to go and search for minerals and things, and I realised that I wanted to build a probe to find the minerals. So I reconfigured everything for fuel, and then once I connected I thought, well, why, if I'm going to recycle this, why not just take the entire plane over? Yeah, it'll mess with my frame rate, but it means that I can build stuff. So, a little boring journey and I shoot past where I'm meant to be because of how heavy this thing is, because of all the fuel it's got. So I loop round, get it on the floor, do a little bit of magic with some kiss pipes. So we grab the pipe, we plug it in, hook it onto the spyglass module, which is always useful. And there we go, we've got access to all the resources. And then we start taking this apart to get me more equipment to inflate more modules. And every piece has got a different equipment amount. I just wander my way through. And then here, once I'm doing the inside, I make a mistake. So I recycle the docking node, and then when I take the thing behind it, it launches my vehicle. Fairly intact, obviously not as straight as you can get. If you've got a problem like that where your vehicle is buckled, just quick save and reload and it'll straighten out all your joints for you. But I go along and recycle a whole load of things. Those engines give me a lot of equipment, and from this plane I triple the size of my base because it allows me to reconfigure some of the modules, and as you can see in the background there, it gives me the ability to put more modules on. So I add a greenhouse, I add a manufacturing thing, I've already got the drill, and it just gets bigger and bigger. I keep these solar panels to the side because solar panels are always useful. And we eventually get to the point where I can time warp forward and we get a rocket ready. So here is our first rocket, very basic, but to be launched from the surface of Laythe, and it is just a scanning satellite. So we get it refueled, lift off, make sure it's heading in a clear direction and jettison its legs, and burn for orbit. And there's a problem with the fairing, where this disconnects and just slides out of the fairing, but we eventually get it out into orbit and we perform a survey. So that gives us access to the locations of where most of our minerals are, and unfortunately what we need is nowhere near us, so more recycling required. So this is where we get to the stage of lots of rapid changes. Bring some of the vehicles back because we need to do some alterations. And I set up some parts to be built. Now these parts are from the Heisenberg mod, but I use them for bases because I quite like them. And then we head out to the first lander, the platypus, and basically grab a whole load of life support off of it. And I actually attach a couple of the canisters just to give me some extra storage. Then dock to it and transfer a whole load of life support, makes it nice and easy. And with the exclusion of some small issues on the way back, like somebody driving way too fast, we get back in one piece in time for things to be built, and we start adding on. So a couple of drills and then a couple of bigger sections, just to give us some habitat area that is a permanent base. And obviously these are fairly heavy, so you usually need 2 Kerbals to lift them. And at first I messed about with compressing them, but then I tried carrying them just as one person. And as you can see here, Rishi is my little Kerbal who is doing almost all of the work on Laythe, and she is fairly strong, can drag those about by herself. But we have a bit more building because I need to go and get some rare metals and exotic minerals. So I come up with this in the VAB, in the spaceplane hangar, and I have it built out here. And this is a lovely little VTOL, little helicopter VTOL, using the Buffalo mod, some of the newer parts in it. So we just have a quick flyabout to test this out, because why not? It seems to fly very well on every sort of mode, VTOL and normal. And then I've run out of power bringing it into land, but I'm learning from my mistakes, and I put a couple of parachutes on it to get it to the floor. I'm not quite figured out exactly how this all works yet, and it wasn't fully fueled when I took off, but there we go. So that is the base as it stands. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I tell you, I really enjoyed making all of this stuff. This has been an interesting day. So, like if you want to, subscribe if you want to, and come back and see me in the future, see what else I'm doing. Thanks for watching. Bye!